Welcome back, our dear viewers. The Fitch Credit Rating did establish an academy in Egypt to shed more light about the importance of establishing such an academy by Fitch Credit Rating. What is the significance of this on the Egyptian economy, and to what extent this could help also in boosting the economy? And to shed light on that, we are very much delighted to have our dear guest in the studio, Mr. Hany Abou-El-Fotouh, economic expert. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Hany. Would you please, in the beginning, shed more light on Fitch Rating Agency? We would like to know more about it.
First, thank you very much indeed for inviting me here today. I would like to take you very quickly to the history of Fitch Incorporation. Historically, Fitch was incorporated in New York, and the founder was John Fitch. It was founded in 1914 as Fitch Publishing Company. Fitch is known as one of the global rating agencies. The other two agencies are Moody's and Standard & Poor's.
Yes.
Fitch has a dual headquarters in New York and London. It operates in more than 30 countries, and there are around 3,000 employees working at the different locations. Its consolidated revenue was estimated at nearly $2 billion. Fitch actually publishes opinions on different areas. The most common is rating. The rating, most commonly, they publish the ratings, the credit ratings on issuer debts, which means the issuer's ability to repay the debts on time as well as the interest. Fitch was acquired lately by Hearst, and it has, as I explained, huge operations in different countries. It comprises three main groups: the Fitch Rating, Fitch Learning, and Fitch Solutions.
Yes. Sir, why was Egypt chosen for the launching of the Fitch International Credit Academy and certification?
Well, Fitch perceives Egypt as a promising emerging country and in the emerging markets, and believes that the government has a strong belief and will to foster education and learning to benefit the young Egyptian. Not only that, they also believe that the economic reform program which Egypt has fostered, has implemented since the year 2016, and now it's nearing its end, has placed Egypt in the forefront of the attractive areas for investment. And in the context of learning and training, Egypt is perceived as a hub for the neighboring countries and Africa, and that's why Fitch Learning perceives Egypt would be the perfect place for starting training business for the next 10 or 10 years or so.
Can Egypt, sir, benefit from the presence of the academy?
As I explained, Egypt is fostering education and learning programs for the young Egyptians. In terms of the financial educations or in the financial sector, this sector is particularly progressing and following the international standards and norms, and it is absolutely needed that the financial institutions and staff working in the financial institutions to be trained on the advanced technologies and methods, skills that are required by the financial sectors. The financial sector is very complex in its operations, and they need to cope with the international standards and operations and have the right skills that's demanded in the employment market in the financial sector.
Yes. Sir, to what extent does Fitch Learning help in the development and the improvement of the capabilities and the performance of the workers in the field of rating in Egypt to cope with the international market?
Fitch indeed provides a world-class certification programs and in-house training in more than 30 countries and major financial sectors. I expect that they would extend that to the Egyptian market. They have an intensive program which takes around 8 weeks, which covers a wide range of modules that are required in the financial sector, including...
Yes. I was going to ask you about the program, sir.
Yeah. So the program, the intensive program, I expect that it would cover the financial modeling, the rating techniques, the complex credit rating
So they haven't published the program yet. It's not yet clear.
From their website, I've gone through their websites and I understand what they offer. And actually, this is my expectation that the certification program that they would present here in Egypt would at least cover the major areas and the techniques that are required in the credit-related field.
Yes. Sir, how would the Academy help in creating the mechanisms for financing micro, small and medium-sized enterprises as well as the mega products as well?
Well, let me explain here that I don't expect that the program would touch on the microfinance. Okay. Microfinance is a different field. Okay. My expectations that the focus would be on the corporate side. The corporates, whether it is small corporate, mid-cap, or large corporates, as well as SMEs. As you know, that Egypt is largely comprised of SMEs. More than 80 to 85% of the businesses here are owned or operated by SMEs. So these segments of the business corporations would benefit from what is being offered by Fitch. It's a world-class education training which addresses the most critical skills required in the financial sector market, particularly in the area of credit and finance.
Yes, and sir, I want to know from you about the sectors. What about the sectors that will benefit most from the Academy?
Primarily, it's the financial sector. The financial sector means the financial institutions, whether banking institutions or non-banking institutions. If we are talking about the non-banking institutions, the companies or the operations that would benefit from that would be leasing, companies operating in leasing, financial leasing, and investment banking, as well as, of course, the traditional commercial bankings in the field of credit and finance.
Yes. Sir, how can this Academy help in developing the capabilities of the African youth in order to be able to cope with the development in the international market and the different financial challenges?
As you may agree, Egypt is becoming more and more a hub of education, learning in Africa. We see many African young people coming to Egypt, whether to receive higher education in universities or receive training or get training courses from the different institutions and training institutions in Egypt. So ipso facto, when we establish a world-class education center and world-class accredited certification in Egypt, that would attract more people who from the neighboring countries and from Africa, because instead of going to the United States or instead of going to Europe to receive that education, they have a more convenient place in Africa here, which provides the same quality of education and training at affordable cost. Egypt, of course, as this kind of investment in Egypt, of course, would yield more taxes, of course. That entity would be, as a corporate citizen, would pay its corporate tax. Similarly, or in another way, the participants or who would like or who would take these courses would spend more in Egypt, would convert foreign currency to Egypt, would find Egypt more affordable place for education, and that, of course, would increase. So would have its yield on other areas.
Exactly.
Everybody would benefit from that.
Yes. And how would the choice of Fitch Rating Agency reflect on the Egyptian economy, Mr. Hany?
The recent credit rating of Egypt by Fitch changed its rating and outlook of Egypt to positive. It was B and then upgraded to B+. This means that Egypt is moving progressively towards the credibility in the eyes of the investors,
yes,
to pay its debts and financial obligations on time. So more positive views, more confidence would be given to the Egyptian economy and investment that would be directly and indirectly reflected to the market here.
Yes. Sir, how would such a decision of increasing the credit rating of Egypt from B to B positive be something positive for the flow of the foreign investment to the country?
Any foreign investor would look primarily at the risk of investment. Okay, before injecting money into a market, okay, they would look at the ability of the issuers or the financial institutions or the businesses that this money would be repaid on time along with the interest or the other financial obligations. So the more positive the rating is, the more confidence would an investor would have and would be ready to inject money into the country. So it's the rating agencies, when they provide a positive view on the economy, that directly impacts the confidence of investors to invest money. And that, of course, would mean or translated at the end of the day into cash flows into the country.
Yes, and that was my question to you, sir. I mean, how would that decision increase the flow of foreign investments to the country? In what way?
In different ways, very basically and simply for buying or investment in the local debts that the government issues, and on the other way, on exploring the available investment opportunities in the country, and if these provide initially feasibility for a good feasibility for the project, they wouldn't hesitate to enter into new investments and inject fresh money.
Yes. So to what extent the upgrading of the credit rating from B to B positive, as well as the decision of Fitch to establish this academy in Egypt, are reflecting how the economic reform program is moving in the right direction?
Fitch is like any other investor.
Indeed.
Okay, they would inject money into a country. They perceive that the economic program, which started 3 years ago, and now it is nearing its end, has started reaping its results and fruits. So they are more encouraged to invest money in a promising market. Okay. And from the perspective of investors, this investment would yield its fruits or results positively and reflects at the bottom line of their financial statements.
But sir, do you think that Egypt, with its geographic location and its weight in the region, would be actually a hub, as you said, with attracting more investments from the region? I mean, I'm talking here about European, Mediterranean countries, as well as African countries, after such a move?
Absolutely, I fully agree with you. Egypt is a hub in different areas. It's not only in learning, education. It's all now we see Egypt is a hub in the energy sector, a hub in the logistics sector. So Egypt is perceived in the eyes of investors as, due to its location, geographical location, is a perfect place for investment, particularly with the stability in the economic and in the safe in the security area. It's now, all these are paving the way for attracting investment once more, knowing that the foreign direct investment has been suffering worldwide. But Egypt still, I mean, is progressing slightly on that.
So to what extent the establishments of new cities in Egypt, such mega projects like the new administrative capital, the new El Alamein city, the new Al Mansoura city, could also represent real attraction to the investments to Egypt?
If we are talking about the mega projects, I would focus on the infrastructure projects. Okay, apart of course the Alamein city, the new capital, administrative capital are very important. An investor would look at an economy with an eye on whether this economy or whether this market has a developed infrastructure, because without a proper infrastructure, without proper communication, telecommunication, roads, without a bunch of laws and regulations which are not bureaucratic and complex, no investor would come into the country. And Egypt has achieved a lot in the last few years in fixing the flows or the shortcomings of the legal and the regulatory infrastructures. It has spent a lot on the infrastructure projects, the mega projects, ports, new cities, new industrial cities, roads, bridges. All these are indeed needed to attract long-term and sustainable investment, whether locally or internationally.
Yes. Actually, sir, in the past few days I was attending the first African Anti-Corruption Forum in Sharm el-Sheikh, and I found on the sidelines of the forum something very interesting. They had this booth with so many publications dedicated to what's going on in Egypt on the touristic level, and there was these huge publications about the investment law, about the mega projects, about the infrastructure in Egypt. And I thought that was a brilliant idea, because all those coming from different African countries as well as 4 Arab countries, they would not only attend the forum, but they would actually get exposed to what's really going on in the country, in terms of investment, in terms of mega projects, in terms of tourism, in terms of the infrastructure, as you kindly mentioned. So I believe that, yes, indeed.
Yes, may I add that these forums are a good platform and venue to showcase the progress which has been achieved in Egypt in different areas. So I absolutely find it a fantastic way to showcase the progress.
Well, Mr. Hany Abou-El-Fotouh, our economic expert, thank you very much, sir, for being with us this morning. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned, a short break, and we'll be back to talk about the ancient Egyptian civilization.